Well, I'm kind of a gamer.
Guys, I think I found her. I think I found my one and true love. Look at her, and her with her beak, and her glorious eyes, and her beautiful hair. And she's a gamer. This is it, guys. I'm dropping out of college, and I'm searching for this place, and I'm buying her. She's 10 grand. She's $1 million. She's mine. She's mine. Yeah, so I kinda like animatronics. This might have to do with my middle schooler love for Five Nights at Freddy's and how I wrote a 10,000 word fanfiction, which was one of the worst things I've ever created in my entire life. But I think there's a little more to it. I mean, I've always loved animatronics in amusement parks and even Chuck E. Cheese when I was younger. And even though I found them really creepy and disturbing, I found them super intriguing in that way. Maybe it's just the masochist inside of me, I don't know. But even though I had no experience with animatronic technology or anything of the sort, I found myself drawn to them as an interest for some unknown reason. To be fair, I'm into VTubers as an adult now, so my interests are definitely interesting. But I remember being so intrigued by the just ambiguity of these animatronics and how they moved and how they acted, and the fact that they're all programmed by humans really surprised me, like with the Avatar robot they made in Disney World. That surprised me to hell and back. I look at this, like, what? No, get that away from me. No, go. And even from a filmmaking perspective, there's animatronics being used in films like Jurassic Park back in the 90s, where they mixed in CGI with the actual animatronic. I mean, look at this. This is horrifying. I can't imagine going on set and not knowing much about the movie, and then just seeing this gigantic thing to act with. And even then, there are so many dinosaur animatronics around the world. It is insane how many dinosaur animatronics there are. I would say it's the most popular demographic for animatronic creation. It is insane. I think it's mostly because of the attraction to dinosaurs and because they think it's cool. I mean, I agree, dinosaurs are really cool, but like, look at this. Like, good lord, that's just huge. And unlike a human animatronic, they have to make sure all of these small little parts function to form this gigantic mechanical beast and make sure that it accurately portrays what they think a dinosaur would act like. It's insane to me how they take these small parts and form them into this gigantic creation that just works perfectly. It's insane. This is not to imply that any of the smaller, more human animatronics are any less impressive. Hell, I love the shaman from Disney World. I know I said it was creepy, but look at this. This is so impressive. It acts so human. It just feels so tangible. I love stuff like this. And honestly, when Avatar was released in Disney World, it was popping off. I mean, look at this animatronic in a literal tube full of water. It is insane that they did something like this. I know I keep using the word insane, but look at this. I can't even figure out another word to describe something like this. It's so ambitious and creative. I love it. I'm not the biggest fan of Avatar, to be fair, but stuff like this is just so interesting. And then there are some crazy designs like this. This thing is underneath the Disneyland Paris castle. It's so funny that they put this horrific design, this horrific animatronic, underneath the most comforting place on Earth. That's just how the French are, I guess. To be fair, Disney and their Imagineers aren't the only people working in this field of animatronics. There are tons of places doing this as well, but Disney is the one with the most money doing the most extremely creative things in the world, I'd say. I mean, they literally made an animatronic dragon in the sky shooting fireballs. I don't know what else you'd want. I mean, personally, all my favorite animatronics come from Disney. Even One Red alone, Stitch's Great Escape, has some of the best animatronics in the entire park. It's also one of my personal favorites. The ride's previous title, Alien Encounter, was even better, I've heard. I'm too young to have ridden it, but I wish I could have because I heard it's amazing. I remember seeing this introduction with all these robots and these animatronics reappearing and disappearing in the tubes, and this central robot, which is a really interesting design. It moves so freely and it seems so... It's not on a rig or anything. It just seems so natural, and I was so surprised by that as a kid because this was one of the first animatronic attractions that I'd ever seen, and so to see something so amazing for the first time, it was just incredible. I'm not even gonna lie though, I was scared to death of Stitch. I thought he was so cute in the movie, but to see him in this tube and him moving so weirdly, and to see his design full of fur, such a weird way to adapt this character, but I love it looking back on it, in sort of an Adult Swim sort of creep factor way. And because of this attraction being adapted from Alien Encounter, there's this feeling of mature horror throughout the entire blackout sequence in this attraction. Like right here, I was dying. I was freaking out so badly, I can't even recreate the fear that I had. And with how creepy the sequence with Stitch disappearing is, Disney has to add this sense of levity to the situation since there's a bunch of kids in the audience and they want to make sure that they're entertained or at least not crying. This levity comes in the form of these little robots that come to check on the audience during the blackout sequence. These little robots genuinely feel like people trying to check in on the audience and genuinely caring for them, until Stitch ruins that and turns them off. Stitch does eventually come back and get transported back to his homeland, but it was pretty creepy as a kid. I do still like the design, but I mean, look at this, like, oh my god. Eventually though, Stitch's Great Escape was taken down in 2018, and then the lovable nightmare, Stitch, was taken apart and shown to be a really, really complex design, and so I will always appreciate Stitch as an animatronic.
Wait, I won't do anything.
Really?
Of course.
But you're really scary.
Well,
And of course, I do have a favorite animatronic. There are many adaptations of Maleficent in her dragon form in the animatronic world. I specifically love this one from the Fantasia presentation at Disney World. I love how big it is. I know it wasn't fully functioning at the time, but just the scale of it is just massive. There's also the aforementioned dragon underneath the castle in Disneyland Paris. While not as experimental with fire as the other two designs, this one has a very visceral look. Instead of adapting the dragon straight from the animation, they took artistic liberties to make sure they can make the dragon look as visceral and brutal as possible. And yes, I know it's a float, but my favorite is the Maleficent dragon float / animatronic. I love how it's a mechanical beast. And even though the chest part exposes the people inside the machine, the dragon still has this presence that is just enveloping. And while the fire is definitely not as impressive as the Fantasia dragon, it's still insane that they got it to do that because it's a float. It's just a mobile float and they still got it to breathe fire. I haven't had the chance to see this one in person, but it's always been my favorite to see in recordings and videos online. This, as well as most of my other favorite animatronics, fit into this mold where I can recognize the ambitious creativity involved, whether that be in designing it or actually building it itself. However, ambition can be a flaw. Not until January of 2019 was the float used again. I'm glad that it's finally back up and running, and hopefully in the future I can go visit it, because it genuinely is my favorite animatronic of all time. I can't think of anything that's just more cool and more my aesthetic than this thing. I know the recent Star Wars ride has a lot of cool designs, like this one of General Akbar, and this one of Kylo Ren, and this one of Kylo Ren again. But even looking towards the future and with these avatar designs, I know there's going to be so much potential with animatronics, especially in Disney. There's so much care and precision put into every single design, and I can't get enough of it. And if you were to take anything from the float, it's that fire is bad. Alright, I remember what you're here for. I'll talk about Pizzeria Animatronics. Nope.